Okay, so we're in Corinthians, right?
All right, let's see it.
Chapter 11, 1 Corinthians, chapter 11, head coverings and worship. That's not the point of this video. We're not talking about head coverings. Don't even get started.
Not even going to start.
Verse 10, specifically. I'll read you verse 8 and 9 for context. For man did not come from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for woman, but woman for man. Here's 10. It is for this reason that a woman ought to have authority over her own head, because of the angels. Now there's a little note after authority over her own head, and it says, or have a sign of authority on her.
So the Greek of this passage never refers to a sign or a symbol. It just says authority. And there are a lot of translations that will read that into it, interpret it that way, like the ESV, the NET, a number of others. But that's just not in the Greek, and I think the majority of scholars would say that's not a good reading of this passage, because the idea of having authority never refers to a symbol or a sign of authority. It always refers to exercising authority. And so it is unlikely to be referring to the veil as a sign or a symbol of someone else's authority. Most likely, according to the majority of scholars, as far as I can tell. And here are commentaries and papers that I looked at to see what most scholars are saying. And pretty much everyone here was in agreement that this is referring to women exercising authority over their own head in the sense of women getting control of their hair. In other words, it seems like Paul is saying, ladies, get control of your own head, in the sense of manage your hair, take care of your hair, make sure it is not unkempt, make sure you're wearing a head covering. You are in charge of your hair, get control of it. That seems to be the consensus regarding what's going on in that part of this verse.
My main concern here is the comma because of the angels. Okay, so this is NIV, so I checked my Christian Standard Version, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 10. This is why a woman should have a symbol of authority on her head, comma, because of the angels. Okay, Paul. So then I broke out my big guns, my NET full notes edition. This is what the pages look like, with the passages and then notes, okay? This is the first page, actually, more notes over here. So, 1 Corinthians 11, verse 10. For this reason, a woman should have a symbol of authority on her head, comma, because of the angels. And then there is a spot for a note, so what do? I go look at the note, right? Paul does not explain this reference to the angels, and his point is not entirely clear. It seems to reflect an awareness that angels are witnesses to church life and would be particularly sensitive to resistance against God's created order.
So this clause has been interpreted a wide variety of different ways throughout the centuries. In the early church, they thought it might refer to ecclesiastical authorities, so like bishops or something like that, or to human messengers, because angelos can just mean messenger. Some people think it refers to the Greco-Roman Jewish reinterpretation of Genesis 6 as a reference to fallen angels who lusted after women, and so in order to avoid lustful angels, you should cover your head. That's not a really very popular reading anymore. From the commentaries and the scholarship that I looked at, it seems to me that there is pretty widespread agreement that the idea here is that in this time period, it was believed that angels were among the congregations during worship. They were there to observe and perhaps to participate. We see this at Qumran in the community rule. In the War Scroll, we see this reflected in the ancient Greek translation of Psalm 138:1, for instance. We see it in a few different places. So the idea would be, based on Paul's rather misogynistic hierarchy, where Christ is the head of man, man is the head of woman, the idea here would be, if you're prophesying, if you're praying, angels are observing, you want to be reflecting God and not man. And so man should have his head uncovered because Christ is the head of man. Women should have their head covered so that they're not reflecting man as the head of them. So it's a misogynistic way to rationalize this tradition that was common in this time period of women veiling their heads during worship services. But the idea there seems to be that there is an order to things. Angels are there to observe and participate, and they are the sticklers for the order of things. And so for the sake of the angels who are present during praying, prophesying, worshiping, women should have their head covered so they are not reflecting man as their own head, but are allowing God to be the focus of the congregation. So that, I think, seems to be the most common reading among scholars today.
It's also referencing Ephesians 3:10 for angels are witnesses to church life. So let's check that. Okay. This section is called Paul's relationship to the divine mystery. I don't know what's going on in Ephesians right now. I'm not here right now, so I'm not really sure what's going on. But let's find verse 10. The purpose of this enlightenment is that through the church, the multifaceted wisdom of God should now be disclosed to the rulers and the authorities in the heavenly realms. This, whatever's going on in Ephesians, seems really deep and spiritual, and like maturely spiritual, if that makes sense. I'm not there yet. I probably need to catch up, and then maybe I'll understand more.
So I would suggest not using Ephesians as an interpretive lens for trying to better understand 1 Corinthians 11 and this sermonizing about women having head coverings while they are praying or prophesying. Ephesians was likely not written by Paul. It was likely written by someone pretending to be Paul after his death, and we find repeated references to rulers, principalities, powers, authorities, things like that, which seems to be a reference to angels, demons, spirits, heavenly entities of all kinds, from malevolent to benevolent. And it seems to have something to do with the author's own ideas about the eschaton, the end times, and those who are either in cooperation with God or at war with God. So I don't think this has anything to do with what's going on in 1 Corinthians and is not going to be helpful in interpreting what's going on in this particular passage.
I didn't mean to start a Dan McClellan hate club in my comments. It was kind of rhetorical, to be honest. He was just kind of the first one I thought of. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, don't worry, you didn't start any of those. They've been around for a long time, because trying to bring critical thought and data-based approaches to the Bible is always going to make people who put dogma over data feel threatened and need to reflexively lash out. But I did want to respond to one comment in the comment section on your video. There was an individual who commented, "Not Dan, he has been caught lying too many times," and this caught my attention. To my knowledge, I've never been caught lying. Certainly there are a lot of apologists who have disagreed with me to varying degrees of vehemence and vituperativeness. But lying is something that I don't believe I have done on social media. So I looked at the rest of this comment. Down below they say, Dan has been caught lying on translation of text. Yeah, that's just not true. I would love for this individual to show me the data that demonstrate I have been caught lying on translation of text. Misrepresenting context, again, I've not done this. I've tried to represent the scholarly consensus to the best of my ability, as well as my own positions if there are questions on which I have personally published, and had several of his papers fail peer, P-I-E-R, review. I don't know what that's talking about, because I've tried to recall having had any paper rejected by peer review, and I can't think of a single one. Everything I have ever submitted for publication has been published. And maybe there's something I'm forgetting, but I honestly can't remember anything about this. But also, failing peer review is not an indication somebody is doing something wrong. But it sounds to me like the idea here is that I have consistently not been able to produce scholarship that is able to pass peer review. And this is just a lie. So I don't know who is spreading these kinds of rumors about me. I would love to see some data to back this up. I am unaware of any such data. So this content creator, Chaos OMD, I'm tagging them because I would like them to show their work and demonstrate these claims.
I am loving the other recommendations, though. Are there any women? Are there any women any of you would like to recommend that I study their works or their readings? Or is it just the same like for men? Asking for a friend. The friend is myself.
So when it comes to the New Testament, I can think of several women scholars I will always defer to, including Candida Moss, who is a wonderful scholar who is now the editor-in-chief of the Anchor Yale Bible Commentary series. Robin Faith Walsh, who wrote a wonderful book entitled The Origins of Early Christian Literature. Angela Parker, she goes by Boozy Bible Scholar. On TikTok. She's also a wonderful scholar. Lynn Huber is a wonderful specialist on the book of Revelation. Maddie Mae Model is a PhD candidate right now who focuses on gender and sexuality in Scripture. And then I also have a couple other friends, folks like Alexiana Fry, who works in Hebrew Bible, who is wonderful. And also at The Bible Scholar is another scholar who seems to me to focus more on Hebrew Bible than on New Testament. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head that have TikTok accounts. I'm sure there are others that I'm missing, but if you go to like Twitter, you can find Mitzi Smith and Francesca Stavrokopoulou and Will Gaffney and Meredith Warren and a lot of other women who have PhDs in New Testament or in Hebrew Bible or in Jewish studies or in early Christianity or something like that. So there are an awful lot of women who are on social media who are experts in the Bible. So thank you for a wonderful question. I hope my response has been at least somewhat helpful, and I'm sorry that you had to see the more annoying side of what it's like asking questions about the Bible on social media. And the fit for this video has been the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man.